Awesome. Hello all. Hope you're all well and safe. Tonight, Middlesex University Product Design Engineering, and Design Engineering are excited to host our sixth talk in the annual guest lecture series. This runs weekly throughout the course of the academic year on Thursday evenings, bringing together a really cool, vibrant mix of speakers from across the entire spectrum of design and design engineering. Tonight, we're really excited to host Antanas Bernatonis, Head of Business Development at Montonio Finance. Antanas is based in Lithuania, but will be joining us from Azores with a talk titled Return on Human Investment. Alongside being the Head of Business Development at Montonio Finance, Antanas is also a student at Vilnius University. His latest company recently raised 500K in a pre-seed round and challenges the traditional banking model. Antanas, despite being 22, has 7 years of experience, also recently becoming the first human IPO in the Baltic states, and his ticket was sold out in less than 20 minutes. Details of the talk and Antanas were also sent to all of your emails ahead of the talk, including links to social media pages, Antanas's LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook channels. So definitely feel free to connect with Antanas online as well. And without any further ado, Antanas with a talk titled Return on Human Investment. It's all yours, Antanas.
Thanks, Ahmed, for having me here. Thanks also Tautvdas for recommending me, and it's a pleasure to be here talking to all of you. Yeah, it's quite big. Your university is quite famous, and I'm really happy. Oh, it's my last slide. Let's see. Right here. Yeah, so it's a pleasure, guys, to see you all. Hope you're not only here because it's mandatory, but that you're also curious about what I'm going to talk about. So as Ahmed mentioned before, I'm on all the social media platforms, so feel free to connect with me. If you are not sure about that yet, you will be sure after the presentation, hopefully. And yeah, I would like to split this presentation. I know I have around 45 minutes into the two parts. So first part will be more about my history and something well related with my journey, which helped me to get where I am. And I believe like most of you will be able to relate in your story because we are about the same age, more or less. And the second part will be about the return of human investment, about the human IPO and what it is and how does it work and why is it beneficial for all of us and how does the concept might change the world. So yeah, I can start in talking about myself. So as mentioned before, I'm head of business development at Estonian fintech startup Montonio Finance. We recently raised €500,000 and we're now raising another round and it's going pretty well with this startup. We have an amazing team, and if you have had the projects you were working on, you know that the team is the main thing that helps you to develop all things and enjoy the process of working. Yeah, and basically, how did I get to this point? So I've started to work since I was 15 years old. Before I was kind of geeky kid who was studying a lot, who wanted to be a doctor, but I read a book, you know, as the teenage years that changed my perspective towards the world, and I decided, do I really want to do what I'm about to do, or do I really want to change that in some other way? And yeah, then my direction shifted towards the more entrepreneurial life, and since then I'm in that environment. And how did it all started? So yeah, as always, you know, all that my first experience was quite funny, and I'm glad that I didn't end up like being one of those kind of believe in yourself motivational people who are just talking a lot and doing affiliate marketing only with all those companies, because that was my start. Actually, I got into those, you know, affiliate marketing things, and there was a lot of hype, a lot of information, but not really a lot of value added. But I was curious. I changed the venues and I went to all of the possible lectures like this one, whether it was online, whether it was live. At that time we didn't have a COVID, so it was better because you were able to go everywhere you wanted. And yeah, I visited all the events possible. I was from the countryside and I was still in the high school, but every day after the school I sit in the train and went to the capital city, to the another city. And yeah, I hustled in order to achieve what I wanted. And then I landed my first real job. Well, I started the one company of men's underwear, prestigious men's underwear at the age of 15, but it lasted maybe for 7 months. And it was not as good as expected as a first project, but after that, it gave me some experience in business development. And I met this guy at TEDx conference who was working on his own company. At the time, it was quite small, but they were developing solar energy projects in Lithuania. And that time, there were like only 5 team members there. And we together went to the conference in Germany. And afterwards, he invited me to join his team. At the time, I was 16 years old. And yeah, and I started to work with international markets and distribution there and sales, and I helped to grow the company. And today that company is one of the biggest companies related with solar energy in Lithuania, with solar energy projects. And they have more than, I'm not sure, like 30, 40 or 50 people in the main company, not talking about the side projects and spin-offs that went from there. So it was quite great experience. Again, I was still in the high school, and then I asked myself, what do I want to do? Actually, I was getting paid in that company, but for me at that time, to uh, dedicate my full time in some specific company in order to get money it didn't make sense, because I had to finish my high school. I was in the like 10th grade. So what I decided to do, I decided to gain experience. And how did I do that? By doing many internships. So up till the end of my high school, I did like 5 internships in different companies, because internship is an amazing thing. Yeah, you contribute to, you're going to the company for 2-3 months. You take a lot, you give something back for them, but basically you get very good overview of what do you want to do and how does the things work in the different fields. So let's say with the investment funds, with the telecommunications, with I don't know, event planning, startups, whatever field you take, you can go and check, does it fit you or not? And build this general experience, which helps you later on to adapt not very common things in that specific field you are getting to. So yeah, basically money versus experience, and that was my question. What's more important for me? And in the business world, as everyone know, you can either get cash and experience. And I took the chance and took the experience first, and then as in this saying from the Harold Guinan, the cash will come later. And that exactly happened. Before, I was investing in myself. Like, it was literally days when I didn't had money to pay for my ticket of the train to the capital city where I did the internship, neither to buy like lunch to eat, because yeah, and I had to choose which one to do, like to go in a train and don't pay for the ticket and might get fined, or not to get that cheap pizza for lunch. So that was a struggle. And at the time, there was really crazy times when I had to, like, I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Because I was doing all these morning routines, like exercising, reading, meditating, and so on. Then I'm going to the school where I started few incentives as well, to getting some support and financial support from the local government, and as well school. They gave us, for the group of friends, this location apartment where we were able in the school to develop things and ideas that others couldn't teach in the school. So like, for example, entrepreneurship, the same, we didn't have the subject, so we were working on this. And yeah, what happened next? So yeah, so I had the school thing, and school ended at like 2:30, and then I was running to the train going to Vilnius, working there till the last train, going to the lectures and so on, coming back at 12, like 11:30, 12 in the PM, and then sleeping like for 5 hours, and then all over again. So it was hard, definitely, but I know where I wanted to be, and I really enjoy that, because as you know, every single one of us in the teenage years wants to go somewhere and wants to relate with something and be recognized. So that was my way of getting recognized. And out of this attitude of taking uncomfortable things, it also helped me to do some crazy things, because entrepreneurship is just one thing of life, and you are asking yourself all the time, like, how do you really want to live? What's our ideal life looks like? And it's usually not only business kind of hustler perspective, it's also the life that actually makes you do crazy things. And I started to do that, taking a break from the professional career. I started to travel a lot with Erasmus Plus projects, with sometimes with businesses, sometimes with friends, whatever. And being at 11th grade, like finishing 11th grade, I decided to do this crazy Euro trip without having any money. At the time, my savings were like 150 euros. And with those, I've decided to go for a month without exact plan around Europe. And this is how my journey looked like. I hitchhiked around Europe. I did more than 6,000 kilometers with 150 euros. Is everything for accommodation. Like usually we're sleeping outside, for food, for everything. It was a crazy journey, but which opened my eyes that actually by doing crazy things, you can end up being in a great places. And jumping from there to now, I'm now in Azores. I'm Lithuanian. I'm living in Lithuania, but during this pandemic, I decided, why should I stay there and be locked inside my house in Lithuania, right? When I can be anywhere I want. So I just bought one-way ticket with my girlfriend here to Azores Island. You can see the view out of my window, and it's wonderful here. So it was so sudden, and I had to drop everything, but I know that those things lead to something. So yeah, basically that was my journey in Europe, and I want to share a few moments from there with you. So yeah, you can imagine that at the Eiffel Tower, we were having fun. For this is just a couple of examples. What did we do? And this is like 5 meters away, near to some maybe US embassy, like 10 meters from the Eiffel Tower. And we got all wet. We didn't have any place to sleep, because most of the time we were sleeping under the blue sky, and it was like so wet, and we just put our things out there. And yeah, there are a couple of views. So this is a national park in front of Mediterranean Sea, that we slept under the blue sky. This is some not as fortunate nights as before, when we got attacked by wild pigs, and it was a crazy night. Storm came out in the Italian mountains. It was crazy. And this one is the day after that one, when we got attacked by wild pigs in Italian mountains. We hitchhiked to Croatia, and it was great. We slept under this olive trees. There were donkeys going around, and temperature of the Adrian Sea was like 30 degrees. So we like just enjoyed this kind of views. It's not from Google, it's from my old phone. You can see it from the quality. So it was like 10 years ago, not 10 years ago, sorry, but it's like, I don't know, 5 years ago, when I was still in the 11th grade. And afterwards, like this experience gave me courage to finish the school, and to still continue to do crazy stuff that would divide me from the competition in the market, and that would allow me to do things I really want to do. And so I just after graduating from high school, 2 days after, I bought a ticket and went to US and did internship there in World Youth Alliance organization, which is working with youth rights, defending youth rights all around the world, in such organs as United Nations, European Union, European Parliament, and so on. So yeah, I did my internship there in New York, and then I came back to Lithuania, and yeah, many people were asking like me, why, like while my friends were going to drink and party in the weekends, I was hustling. And yeah, at the time, I feel kind of in this picture. You can see me right here on the right corner. I was this kid in the group who was kind of different. But and some of my friends were asking like, if you will start a cinema, you might like, why are you doing that? But the prize, you will see, it's obvious. And yeah, well, today you can see me in many conferences. So after that, I was working again with renewables, with tech education. Then I landed this and at Montonio and started to work with financial technologies. But basically, yeah, there are so many things going on that you cannot believe. And you know that all that happened because of you being hyperactive, super active in the days before. And yeah, recently I also started this incentives during like in the spring when first wave of COVID hit the Europe of uniting Vilnius tech companies, and we gathered more than, like, it's just one of the examples at the very beginning. We gathered more than 40 companies, which created more than 500 jobs for those who lost them during the pandemic, and it was great incentive, which now is my side hustle. Then we are working with the consulting company, so it's as a side hustle. And yeah, so usually you can imagine the life of entrepreneur like this. Sorry for the quality of the picture, but the reality is often like this. And yeah, recently the quite big news that came into the Baltics, and like again while discovering this all of those opportunities came to me, was this great startup, human IPO, and probably most of you know what's IPO, initial public offering, right? When the company releases certain amount of shares, like for example, now DoorDash is releasing our IPO, Airbnb is planning to release an IPO at 30 billion valuation, and all of the other companies, it's big. So they are releasing a certain amount of shares that people can buy and fund them for expansion or whatever reason. And up till this point, there were actually no way how we would be able to invest in people. Yeah, like for example, I believe that Ahmed is doing great stuff and he can achieve, and he's building companies, but I don't really have a chance to invest neither in his companies, neither if in him, and like kind of empower him and show my support that he can achieve things. Meanwhile, capitalizing on his success. So we can take as an example, yeah, we can take Elon Musk, right? Who today is worth millions of dollars, and probably to spend 1 hour with him would cost us millions if we would like to just buy it. But let's imagine how much did it cost like 30 years ago, and he was a young student. Probably we would talk about $10, $20 per hour, right? And if at the time we would have an opportunity to invest in him, today we could share some big money out of his success, even though we are not as successful as he is, but still, while capitalizing on him, while investing and buying his time, we could earn today by selling that time for others who would like to meet him and who have this money and would be ready to spend. Now I would like to expand on why is it important to recognize people, because yeah, up till this point, like we going to back to 19th century when the first industrial revolution hit the economy. So it was because of the because of the energy sources that were built. So it was oil in the 20th century that allowed to produce massive amounts of goods, massive amounts of new materials to work with. It was kind of new economy generator that led people to do things they never thought they could do up till this point, and build new ways of creating wealth, right? And when we are coming to 21st century, always now we have other ways to do materials, other ways to produce products, and yeah, and we have other energy sources that we use. And it's often said that data is the new oil, which is right, and maybe most of you are working with data, but we should not forget the people as well, because people is the new oil, since their individual value they bring to the companies, it's massive. And I will expand on that later on. And a good example of that could be Steve Jobs. If you remember, like when he created Apple, it started to grow fast. And in the late 90s, Apple fired Steve Jobs. And what happened to Apple? They almost bankrupted. Their shares, the value of shares went down drastically. But meanwhile, Steve Jobs was creating new companies like Pixar, like Next, and he grew those companies, and value of those companies grew drastically, as well as his value. And once he came back to Apple again, you know the rest of the story. Like, it's now worth more than $2 trillion, the Apple valuation, which is crazy. And it's because Steve Jobs was so smart, and he knew that he's the founder of the company and he was leading it. So it's just one of many examples of why individual value of the people is very important in today's companies. And we can get to the next point of what was before. Like before, we had, as said before, materials and like many assets, like physical assets that build the wealth of company and that investors were ready to pay for, right? It was factories, it was some heavy machinery or whatever else. And today, we're seeing another approach that most of those biggest companies in the world that kind of rule the world, like Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google, whatever else, they create most of the value only with having people with good internet connection and with computers, right? And we don't need any more that heavy machinery. And probably the physically heaviest company could be called Amazon, but even they are reaching most of their assets by circular economy, and even their warehouses they use as service, like from the third parties, right? So it's big. And yeah, Totodas already saw this presentation and at the Logan conference. And what have we seen during this pandemic, that before it was at least normal to have offices, to have people working in those offices, and that was kind of today's heavy machinery, right? Something like that. And today, during the pandemic, we saw the growth of Zoom towns and such things that were well-paid employees moved from the biggest cities, from Silicon Valley, from London, to the countryside, and they started to work from anywhere in the world because everything was locked. They were locked at home. But we saw that those digital companies' value still grew and helped the economy not to collapse. And it's just another proof that today, in order to create that wealth, to create value, you don't need to be at a specific location, but you can be anywhere in the world and still create that huge value, huge amounts of value, right? And yeah, going further, so probably, yeah, you cannot, we can see that best companies, so yeah, this concept about individual value of the person, that not collective value, but individual value, was talking quite wide, and especially in the Silicon Valley. And probably, you know, if you already met with the concept of venture capital, very often they invest not in the idea, but then in people. Because yeah, let's say you have some crazy idea, you say, oh, let's dig this tunnel like to Los Angeles, and let's build this tunnel with a special train which will take people there in 5 minutes instead of like 5 hours or 15 hours or whatever, and we'll make this incredible, it will be like very fast, and yeah, you are giving such an idea for the investors. And if you come to them and say, yeah, that sounds great, but it's impossible, sorry, we cannot give you $1 billion for that, right? But if Elon Musk is coming with this idea of building a hyperloop, investors are ready to give him that money because they're investing not in the idea itself, but in the person, right? Because we already know how many crazy stuff he did before. And probably the best example of this people-driven companies and investing in them is Sequoia Ventures. So it's one of the most successful ventures of all time. They invested in such companies, the Google, as YouTube, as Airbnb, WhatsApp, Dropbox, DoorDash, LinkedIn, whatever, like almost all of the companies that changed the world, right? And this is, you see on the screen now, that this is their landing page. And if you open Sequoia Ventures web page, you will see the same, that on their main page, they're not focusing on the idea that those companies have. They're not focusing on the brand. They're not focusing on technology, but they are putting the main focus in people, because they understand the best that the people in those companies are creating that wealth and growing the value of those, the valuation of those companies, and what do they bring to the society. Is those people's first. And yeah, even though we are used to the term that I said before that you don't have to be anymore in the specific place to create value, but there is a paradox, because still most of the value in the world is created in the very specific places. So let's say it's Silicon Valley, right? It's London, it's Vilnius, it's Singapore, and all of those kind of countries where the best talents come to, and they build those great companies that later on expanded the world, or they join those biggest companies. And well, they're creating that value in very specific locations. And this, yeah, exactly, pandemic allowed us to move away. And this opportunity to work from anywhere not only allows for us individually to create value, but it also allows for those individuals working from anywhere in the world to create an ecosystem around them. Like, for example, if I have a digital marketing agency and I'm working from some village in, I don't know, whatever, in the village in Poland or whatever, or anywhere else, I'm not only contributing myself with that digital agency, and let's say I'm giving a services to Google or whatever, but I'm also, since I'm growing my company, I'm hiring local talents from that village. I'm training them, I'm increasing their salary, I'm getting them closer to this Silicon Valley society. And it allows us to create this economy and ecosystem around us that brings more value. And if we would multiply this ecosystems, like thousands, like with 100,000 all around the world, and put them in the different places, you can imagine how much value it can bring to the society. So this talent, this opportunity to create that wealth and value from anywhere really allows us to grow as society. And it's probably going to be the next big thing to change, that we don't need to be in the biggest locations in Paris, in Singapore, in New York, right? But we can work from anywhere and create those great, great things. And yeah, as talked before, like up till this point, people, there were really not any good way to invest in people. And while companies have like debt and equity financing, only option for people to get a good education, to get financing for their startups or so on, was quite limited, and usually coming together with big liability. And maybe most of you who are studying in this university, you had to take a debt that you have to pay during a certain amount of years, or maybe work in the company if it financed you, or whatever was the way you got those money. Probably it comes together with the liability, right? And what does human IPO allow as a company, as a startup, and what's their idea is to empower talents around the globe to do things they want to do and get relevant financing for them, where they do not have almost any liability, but they have a chance to show that they really can do it, and that they can be best at what they are good at, basically. So let's say that you don't have to take, if you want to get good education, you're talented and you have some achievements, maybe it's not good for you to take finance from the bank, a debt from the bank, but maybe you can release 500 hours of your future time that your investors and people that believe in you could buy, and in this way finance you and earn, capitalize on that themselves. So all the parties wins. In this case, you get your money. So let's say you sell 500 hours for, I don't know, 100 euros each, and it's like total of 50,000 euros that comes to you, that you can invest either in your startup, in your idea, in your education to grow. And then later on, all those other people, when you will be successful, you will have a good exit, other people will come to you, they will want to talk to you. You can just say, okay, instead of coming to me, you can go to my investors and pay them back. And then your time is tradable and you can see the value of your time. And it's very important to keep in mind that human value is one of the most fastest growing values and assets that is possible. So yeah, we all know that when we are young students, our salary is probably quite low. When we are working at the cafeterias and elsewhere, we are still proving ourselves. But once we're getting better, we are becoming CEOs of the companies, our value increases, and the value of our time increases. So it's a good pay back for your clients. So I hope you got the concept pretty well on this, and because yeah, it became the first human IPO in the Baltics a couple of months ago, and it was a great experience. My goal was not to raise money, but my goal was to show the concept in the Baltic states, and like as it seems now also in some other countries as well, that this is working. And yeah, as mentioned before, my time, I released limited amount of time, and it was sold out within 20 minutes of the initial release. 99% of the shares were sold out within 8 minutes since the launch. And within 2 days, the value of my time increased by 660%, which was a huge increase. You can see that yourself, because people started to trade it in the secondary market, those who was not able to buy it at first, and they start to buy from other people, and then they got instant return of that investment. And it just proves that it's, well, quite interesting concept to work with and quite interesting investment, while investing not only in the Apple and Tesla and such companies, but investing in people that you believe in. And yeah, right here, if you will scan this code, you can you will get to my profile, and you can get closer to the concept of human IPOs. So check this out as well. Now my value is up by, I think, almost 500%. So it dropped a little, then it increases. It's like in the normal stock market, right? When it goes up and down regarding your achievements and other things. So really get closer to this concept and understand, because it could be the next big thing. And many and current community of human IPO consists of founders of 500 startups founders, 30 and 30 Forbes list members, and well, basically mostly Silicon Valley community, which really believes in this concept, because what they are looking for is the individuals that they could be invested to, and the next big investments will be those people. And if we'll empower them, it brings benefit for everyone. And what's next with this? We, after this quite successful launch in Lithuania, Human IPO headquarters contacted me, and we started to work in this local region, local market, and now we are proving new concepts. So we will start with this ESM university. It's the University of Business and Economics. We will start and we will launch first Human Capital Accelerator in the Baltics. So probably you are familiar with the concept of startup accelerators, where companies go through a specific program that helps them to build an MVP, to learn about business, acquire first customers, and like teach us all the basics of how to get ready to go to market, build the go-to-market strategy, and basically raise the money for their future expansion. So the same goes with Human Capital Accelerator. There's just in this accelerator goes not companies, but people, the young entrepreneurs, young people, young students who we believe could be very successful later on, and we train them to become such people, and they're going through the program. They're expanding their network. They're building projects together. They're meeting their mentors from all around the world, from Silicon Valley, from Singapore, from all the best companies, and they are getting lectures and building their network of investors that later on can invest in their newly launched human IPO profile, and they can that way they can raise money for their studies or for their development of their ideas. So yeah, so it's the first try of this Human Capital Accelerator. It will start very soon, and yeah, later on we are starting with other universities in Lithuania as well on the side of that. So maybe your university is interesting as well. So if any of you would be curious about this, maybe Ahmed, you can contact later. It's definitely possible to do this thing as well elsewhere. And Yes. So yeah, and so bad so far. Okay, what else about this? So not only it helps you to raise money, this concept, but it also helps you to build a community around you, that's kind of fans community that supports you, because not only the money matters, but the network matters as well, very much. And I think most of you can agree that and relate to that from your previous experiences. How did you get your first job? It's very likely that it was kind of some of your relatives that helped you. How did you get best sales? It might be that your previous connections helped you to get in contact with your clients that help you to close the deal. So this network, these people are directly interested and motivated to support you, because they know that if you will succeed, they will get this return as well. And while investing 100 euros in any of you, I can get like, I don't know, 100, 200,000% cash back in the future. Sounds like a quite good deal to me. So it actually, even me, I am human IPO myself, and people are investing in me, but I'm also investing in other members in the human IPO who launched the IPOs before, because and like maybe 10 to 15% of my portfolio now is investments in people, because I really believe that can yeah, that can cash back later on. And even now I see the percentages that are quite high, and there is not even a year for the startup. So let's say, well, let's see what will happen after 5 years when first people will get their exits. It's a crazy opportunity that everybody can capitalize on and be the first pioneers, because as I mentioned, this is very young idea, very fresh idea, and people need to get used to this concept. It's very new. You are probably among the first 0.1% that gets to know this idea and this concept. And that's what help you to be um, ahead of things and trends that will happen later, because you are familiar with this. It means that you can capitalize yourself on that and maybe create additional products on that, since you are all engineers, designers, and so on. So it's good brainstorm for you if this will be the next big thing, how you can capitalize on that, not only by investing in people, but maybe creating your own products and yeah, and building value on that. So this is something I hope later on you will have more questions on that. I hope you got the concept. If not, open Human IPO app and you will be closer to that. If not, later on ask me questions. I will be glad to answer them. And yeah, and sometimes question comes. Each of us are now young and we're having a potential in us, and we want to build stuff later on. And we're probably building it now, and sometimes we have those struggles where we don't know where to start. And I really like this phrase. It's very simple, but very good one. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. It's from Arthur Ashe. And I think it summarized everything, because very often we postpone things we want to start with, we postpone things we want to do, but things happen every day for us, and those opportunities are everywhere. And yeah, the only problem is with us, whether we are taking that first step towards them, and whether we are building our way into that field, and whether we are willing to take that first step that scares us, but later on that results in some great, not only, well, not only achievements and money and kind of stuff like that, but adventures and experiences that kind of comes together and defines what the life is, and what do we really want to do every single day. So yeah, I think thanks, and I hope to hear your questions.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Antanas. Thanks a lot for your time, and also for sharing your journey, the concept of the human IPO, which was quite interesting. First time I'd also heard about it when I was looking at your bio, and alongside some of the advices towards the end. There's a few questions coming in from the participants and the students. So just some of them pertain to a bit about your journey, and some related more to the human IPO and human capital accelerator as well. So first and foremost, Julian was asking, why did you completely skip Germany on your Europe trip?
I just like this is a good question. Well, because our first when we hitchhiked, we were quite lucky because we caught this guy in Lithuania who built his own van. He was a crazy guy, you know, one of those kind of Vikings, like modern Vikings, who was carrying swords and knives and axes in his van, and like and having this big helmet, you know, with the Vikings helmet in front of his van, and that at every border he was stopped. So like kind of this guy, and he was like crazy, but he stopped and he said, "Oh, I'm going to France." So we got our ride from Lithuania to France, and we had kind of adapt to him. He of course stopped in Czech Republic to drink beer. He stopped at Belgium to drink beer, but we were stopped at every single border, and it was crazy how, because he had those, I don't know, maybe 30 axes and swords in his van, but he hid them so well that every time the inspection came inside to check whether he has some illegal stuff like this, they couldn't find anything. And they are like, they are every, and once they leave, he shows like coming from this seat, like here's an axe, here's a sword, like all kind of stuff. And we're like, oh yeah, how is that possible? So yeah, that was the reason we got one right, and we had to adapt according to him. But Germany is cool. I am coming there almost every year, usually to the conferences, not to hang out.
Awesome. And Julian also asked another question as well. How is the value of a human calculated?
Well, in general perspective, it's calculated by your salary, right? How much do you earn per hour, and how much people and companies are willing to pay you for 1 hour. So it's a general term. How do we do that in the real life? In the human IPO, once you release in your initial public offering, you can define it yourself with the help of the experts in there. So you can be, it's like in a normal IPO, you have to define who will be your investors and how much you are able to raise. Are you like, do you really have achievements that would let you to release 500 hours for 1,000 euros and will be there enough people to buy them? Or it's actually better to keep that low and like release smaller amount of hours, maybe for the lower price? Well, you have to see whether you're an influencer and you know you will have hundreds of investors, or whether you are smaller one person, but you can get bigger investors, or like what's your audience there. And you have to evaluate that and see, and what is most important for you. For me, it was to show an example. So that's why I released not a lot of hours with a little price, and that allowed to skyrocket it because the demand was higher. So it's always demand and supply, I think.
Brilliant. And a few questions coming in from Joseph Salem. What's the main thing you took from the experience when you went hiking, camping in the wild, traveling in general?
Well, it was still up till this point, I had quite many experiences, and that one is still the strongest one, if you can believe, because it allowed me to again experience that, you know, inner feeling that you actually are alive. It's not just things that happen every day. Okay, I wake up, I'm going to eat, then I know that I will sit to work or study. In the evening, maybe I will meet with friends, and maybe we'll have some adventure. And that is already like something that is cool. Yeah, it's okay. And when you're waking up every single day in like inappropriate locations, like we once slept on the other side of the kaip pieva yra like šitas kapines. Sorry, I forget the English word. Cemetery? Cemetery, yeah. So once we slept outside of cemetery, all around us there were rats running around. It was pee smell all around. It was terrible. We slept like for 4 hours. It was so bad. But still, next morning you wake up and then you see that you are in the mountains in France, and you see the sunrise between two hills, and it's the most beautiful view you ever seen. So it's always those kind of contrast of surviving and living your best. And when those combine, you feel that it's like, hell, that's crazy. Hell, I love it. It's so hard, but I love it. So that was something like that, that what I took from it, that, yeah, you can actually do those crazy things and enjoy them even in the hard times, but it's all up to you. You can have as much as you want, and those adventures, like, there are no limits. It's your choice what you want to do. So that was my kind of takeaway from that.
Amazing. And another question from Joseph Salem. What's the main things that you learned from being a business development executive student?
So being the student or business development executive?
I think a little bit of both. So what were your key learnings, I guess, from a business development executive and also as a student?
Okay, so yeah, first as business development executive. So I was doing this for a while now, and it's great. Yes, probably my best takeaway from this was whether I want to be in lead position, like because before I used to start many incentives and be the lead there and crush it, and then trying to gather a team who are underperforming, and then I'm feeling like, oh, only I'm alone who can do this, and you're feeling this kind of pressure that it's on you and you have to carry it all. And then once I joined this company, and I understood that I'm not anymore in the lead position. I have my tasks that I have to deliver, and it's great because I'm splitting on that success anyways. I'm doing the job that I actually love, but I don't need to carry that pressure on me anymore, and it's a relief for me. I have some side hustles that I need to take this, to be the lead and to brainstorm more and have that stress, but it's not the thing that you are surviving on anymore. It's just a side thing. So each of us is different. Like one of us should be the ultimate leaders, and they want to got those responsibility and a hustle and work hard on the things they love. For me, it's different way. I really appreciate time with my family. I love to work on additional ideas, brainstorm, and things that uh, releasing new ideas into the market is like my favorite thing to do. So I'm better like being on the side of things. So that's my takeaway from the being business development executive. Of course, you have, as mentioned before, you have your tasks and you enjoy them and you do them, and that's great. But yeah, I'm happy because I found my role. I got quite many job offers in recent days. So it was one job offer from the venture capital that I got, another from another fintech company, and I thought, well, maybe I should take it. The salary is better then, but then you answer yourself that okay, I have this goal of mine where I want to get, and I took this path that I'm going to, and do I really want to change it right now? And probably, yeah, sometimes you need to keep constant on that, what you decide. And yeah, being as a student at the Vilnius University, so best takeaway probably was a relationship with administration and how the community can help you, because they helped me. They it's good for them and good for me because it's an exchange, being in a good relationship. So they're taking me as a cover in their stories, as recommendation for the conferences, whatever they need. Meanwhile, I'm like expanding the word about that university in the Lithuania, in the world, and elsewhere. And it's really good because we're supporting each other, and we know that we can. Well, that community is someone that behind me and supports me all the way.
Amazing. And guys, as always, feel free to obviously request if you want to go live and if you want to ask questions in person as well. Feel free to do that. Just drop your name on the chat and I'll obviously give you guys the permissions to be able to unmute yourselves. Another question that's coming through now. So this is from Asil Al-Bakami, and hopefully I've understood this correctly. There's a few like little typos in the chat, but what could be the impact of digital platforms through Europe, as currently we rely on them hugely, especially throughout the global pandemic? Will this have an impact on human employment or employees?
Can you repeat first part of the question?
So what could be the impact of digital platforms through Europe, as currently we rely on them hugely, especially throughout the global pandemic?
Yeah. So I think it's a huge one way or another, and those digital platforms, like they're doing everything, and we are seeing the shift of our skills. And like many people are now afraid of artificial intelligence, and it will take our jobs, and we will be like all dead and slaves for the machinery, right? But the people were the same afraid of the heavy machinery in the 19th century when it took over the sewage job. We will work together with that, and those platforms helps us to get there, to understand how does go. I'm not sure which platforms exactly you're talking about, but like basically they are allowing us to create value, to create jobs, to create wealth in a way that we really want, and we don't need anymore that physical exercise, well, physical exercise we need, but we don't need to do that physical work that much. And this machinery helps us, and technology is the way to go. And our goal is to understand how to work with that and bring it together to those like platforms and help others to get there as well.
Oh, brilliant. And another one from Joseph Salem. Joseph is saying, what are some of the methods that human capital acceleration can do to help young people become successful?
Right. So yeah, first of all, the most important part, as always, as I'm repeating myself today, but it's the community that you're in. And the concept we were working on, so to build that community of attendees of that program, of the mentors, of alumni, and those students that are in there and are from the different fields. So it's designers, it's business students, it's programmers, engineers, and so on. So we want to bring together a different variety of people who can work together in tackling problems and supporting each other and understanding the value of this. And of course, the international support and network. So great mentors that you can, like locally in Lithuania, we have some great people, but still sometimes you want that international experience, right? We are not local anymore. We're getting more and more international. Right now, probably even in this chat, there are people from at least like 15, 20 countries, right? And it allows us to be all in one place and share those experiences from different parts of the world, but we can all relate to that. So it's not anymore this and that world, but we are all together in one. So yes, but there are still specifics from the different parts that we want to get. So people in Lithuania, they're getting knowledge from the professors who are there, but we also want to bring those professors from outside of the circle, outside of the bubble, from Silicon Valley, from Singapore, who are working at the top companies, and help them to get there as fast and as qualified as possible.
Awesome. And Talk Vidas, you wanted to go live. Go for it, Talk Vidas. Ask your question live.
Hey, Antanas. So first of all, thank you for joining us today. And my question would be very simple, but at the same time difficult. You were talking a lot about the community. And the fact is that we are around from 15, 20 different countries around the world, and all of us are joined by this university in London. And just like you, most of us, there are some exemptions, are in early 20s. What would be your advice for our age group, and actually for everyone who is still in a university, who have never been in a professional community before, or is entering the field, let's say in industrial design, is super small field, especially in Lithuania, is basically non-existing, and we both know that. How do you get into the right community? And what would be your best advice for people who want to start networking?
Yeah, so again, being in the community is quite a tough thing, and thanks to us for the question. It's actually a great question. So I see from my own experience, so I can share it because it's quite close to me right now, that who are around you, you are becoming kind of average of them. I think it's quite popular saying. And so before it was local communities that I was working with. So as mentioned, because Lithuanian startup community is very small, like, you know, all of the people. Last week there was networking of Lithuanian startup community, and there were like people, and I maybe didn't know 20% of them. And it's very small community to be in. But talking about international communities, it's very good to get outside of that. And yeah, how do you start doing that? So you can start with creating your LinkedIn profile, perfecting it, and then spending like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours per day on LinkedIn itself, while connecting with the relevant people who are professionals in the field and you want to be in the network of them. You can follow them, write for them, try to connect with them and build a relationship, while publicly commenting about, posting about stuff you know, you learn maybe, and being active member of the in the platform yourself, and also while commenting other people inside, because that way every single community is quite small. It's a niche, right? If you're not talking about general things. So for example, in industrial design, you can find 20 top performers in this field, and then add them to your network and then comment on every single post that they have. And probably they have many followers that will see you as well, that, okay, It's the one time that they see Totalas commenting on this my post, and he's giving quite good insight on that. But once they will see it for the 5th time, they will think, okay, maybe he's cool in the field because he's giving such a great insights, and the 5th time he did that. So I want to connect with him as well. And then so you start to be recognized among the professionals in the field. And in that way, like then everything comes together because you get invitations to maybe some specific networking party that only they know about. And since they connected, they say, oh, maybe you would like to attend. And then you meet with another person who says to you about this group. So I recently became the member of Trends group. Trends is, if you know the Hustle Cone newspaper in US. So the Trends is the kind of premium content of that and spin-off that you have to pay for like $300 per year, but you're getting not only the best trends and news that they create like specifically for that group, but you're also getting into the community on Facebook, and you cannot believe how much valuable information I get there. And every single day you just want to scroll through those posts that people are asking how that they're commenting or they're doing whatever else, because it's so strong community and people start businesses there together. People scale businesses because of those advices that they built as a community, and they never saw each other in the real life, right? Today, actually, after this lecture, I'm going to that networking of the Trends group. It will be the first one for me, but it allows you to be ahead of things and create that value together as a software. So yeah, basically, how do you start doing that while looking how to do that in the best ways? And of course, LinkedIn is probably the first step to do.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. And then going back to the human IPO, like how do you find and locate and spot the potential and value in the individuals? Like, is there a process? And say, for example, if you're coming from an investment perspective, to know when to capitalize on a particular individual?
Right. So first of all, it's a very fresh idea, and probably the current process goes like that. The person fills the application himself, and then you evaluate whether his achievements are good, whether his previous works are good, or he like did almost anything, and now he wants to raise like 100,000 euros. So it doesn't make sense. Of course, you wouldn't invest in that person. But if you evaluate, it's quite clear to see his achievements, see his performance, what did he do before. But the another way is to recognize potentially the people around you and to offer them an opportunity to come and be on the platform. Because I believe that each of us know at least like 1, 2, 3, 10 people who you would be willing to invest in, because you really believe that they can do great things in this world. And if up to this point it was just a minor support of you, like I really believe you are doing great and I support you all the way, you could actually tell them, go on Human IPO, release your IPO, and I will invest in you. And together with me, there will be another 20 people who will invest in you and support you. And it will help you grow and scale your ideas and businesses. So yeah, I think it's start with us again, individually recognizing people and talents around us.
Amazing. And a final question, I guess, from Harry Miller Adams. So if there's one single piece of advice that you would give us, what would that be?
Where is it? Right, this one. I will repeat it again. So start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Because we can postpone the things as much as we want. But if you will start where you are, you don't need anything. There are no obstacles. What could be the first step today that can, well, help you get where you want tomorrow? So I think it's that one.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Antanas, for your time, for your talk. From all of us at Middlesex University, product design engineering, and design engineering, a massive thank you. And we look forward to you joining us again in the near future.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.